Have you ever wished you could eavesdrop on a conversation with a millionaire? My name is Michelle Thompson. I'm a retired project controls engineer and business professor, and that's exactly what I'm going to do in this podcast. I get to ask the questions that everyone else wishes they could. I'm going to find out exactly how they were able to build their empires through automation and outsourcing. And I'm going to break it down in a way that helps you build your business to run on autopilot. Don't miss out on Automate to Dominate. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in to another podcast. Today's guest is Toni Chowdhury, and she is the founder of Women Who Win with Toni Chowdhury. So Toni specializes in both marketing and helping women who want more clients or just want to scale their business and take it to the next level. Toni, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Michelle.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure to have you on here.
I feel really honored. So what I do basically is help women entrepreneurs find their right client, their ideal client, and then obviously to attract them. Finding is not enough. So they have to find their ideal client, attract them, and then convert them into not just paying clients, but loyal customers and raving fans. So that is what I do primarily.
Yeah, and that's really easy to say and not easy to do. So that's amazing that you've figured out, how to do that. So
I was scratching my own itch, let's put it that way.
Okay. All right. So it worked out well for you, and now you can teach others. I love it.
Absolutely.
So I heard that you were from a super conservative Indian upbringing. Is that true?
Very true. Yes.
All right. So how did that help motivate you to get where you are today?
That is actually a great question because I think there are a few things that played into it. One was that I was always a rebel. Growing up, I was a rebel because I just didn't like that, the discipline, the rigidity and all of that. So I always found a way to push my boundaries, taking risks and doing stuff that I wasn't supposed to do. Wasn't good growing up, but, it helped me. It served me. I think the other thing that I also learned being in, having lived in a joint family with 17 other family members.
Wow.
Yes, that was a huge family. We had I think three floors in our house and 17 people. And what that taught me was compassion and consideration as well. So that kind of goes into the empathy part, right? So empathy is so important in our businesses because if we don't empathize with our clients, we don't really know how to serve them. So I think those were probably the biggest ways that kind of, the two things that really, really helped me.
Awesome. And for those of us who are very Americanized and maybe don't know what a conservative Indian upbringing is like, can you just kind of shed some light on that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh my goodness. There's so many things. So one is that, again, it depends. So we have so many different communities in India. Every province has its own culture, its own language, its own set of rules and stuff like that. Some are a little bit more liberal than the rest. The province that I came from, which is West Bengal, and you've probably heard of Mother Teresa, and I actually, I was born and raised in Calcutta, where Mother Teresa was, and I was educated I was educated in a Catholic convent, even though I'm not Catholic. It was a private school, and Mother Teresa used to be a teacher at one point in that school. So I have seen her from 6 feet away. So that kind of had a profound influence on me because the nuns were from all over the world. So that created a kind of a paradox in my life. So on one hand, I was expected by my family to go to university, to have, a postgrad degree and all of that, but then be a stay-at-home mom and raise kids, get married early and raise kids. But on the other side, I saw this huge wide world of possibilities. So that possibly kind of, created that urge in me to be different, I mean, I'm not saying that every one of mine, it was a girls' convent. So I'm not saying that every girl who studied in that school thought like me, but, but to go back to your question, so one was that, you're expected to be a stay-at-home mom, raise your kids, and that's why you're supposed to be really educated, because you want to raise your next generation, with good values and, with wisdom and all of that stuff. The other thing was, which
no pressure.
No pressure, right? The other thing that I found very difficult to adjust to was the fact that you were not allowed to speak to boys, even as friends. You couldn't play with them. You couldn't, it was just taboo, especially in my family. So that was tough. And the other things could also be you are expected to be religious, which I wasn't, because I am Hindu, but I'm not a practicing Hindu per se. I'm more spiritual. I was educated in a Catholic convent, so I was exposed to that. So it was kind of a very, very different upbringing for me. But that, the discipline, the rigidity and all of that is something I think most Indian families, now it's a little bit different. But when I was growing up 50 years ago, right, I don't want to date myself, but back then it was very prevalent. So yeah, I hope that answers your question a little bit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I just kind of wanted to, for those of us who are maybe not as familiar with the culture. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Calcutta a very poor part of the world? Did you come from a very well-to-do family that lived there?
I did come from a pretty affluent family. I mean, we were upper middle class. My family was in business, and my dad and my uncles, they were all together in a family business. So I grew up with that entrepreneurial background. But I don't think Calcutta is poor per se. There are tons of wealthy people. We were more the intellectuals of Indian society. So the West Bengal, well, Calcutta is a city within the province of West Bengal, and we call ourselves Bengalis, and the Bengalis are supposed to be the intellectuals, so yeah, I mean, I don't think we were it was the poorest part of Calcutta, no way, but poverty exists in India wherever you go. There's a huge population that is under the poverty line, but there is a huge population that are really, really wealthy as well. So it's a huge disparity.
Well, but it's absolutely amazing that you were able to grow up in that, entrepreneurial, with your uncles and your father, yeah. But yet, you're a female, so, you're not supposed to, really catch the entrepreneurial bug per se, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, but that's amazing. That it speaks to how strong you are and how unique. Tell us, 3 things that are super unique about you.
One is, of course, I don't believe in problems, in the sense that, of course, there are problems, but there are always one or more solutions to any single problem. That is something I absolutely believe in. And that's why I never consider anything a problem. I just consider it a challenge, and I know there are ways to resolve that. I think the other thing would be more I'm intuitive. I'm very intuitive, and I'm an empath on top of that, which kind of also has some disadvantages, because I avoid large groups like the plague, because I'm in other people's energy fields, and that really gets me down. So all that stuff, but what it helps me with is that it really helps me resonate with my customers, with my clients, and it takes me less than a minute sometimes to just, get what they're trying to do, or understand who they are in what they're trying to solve, so that's another thing.
And I'm just going to stop you for a second.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's an incredible superpower.
Thank you.
To be able to just niche down and be able to, empathize and be able to figure out exactly what somebody is able to do in 60 seconds. Holy crap, that's unheard of.
Yeah, it is, I think. And that's also because I do have a day job. I am an innovation coach with actually a Fortune 100 high-tech company. And that really helps me as well, because if I can understand, because I'm a coach and I do workshops and stuff like that. So if I can understand what somebody is trying to get done, they get amazing results, after the workshop. So that is something that really helps me, and I just play into my strengths, And the other thing about being an introvert, like I'm a super introverted person, it helps me spend time on learning, because I am not the partying kind. I don't go out too much. I'm, always within my little bubble. I don't watch the news, right? Because all you hear is negativity.
Yeah,
So
me either.
yeah,
I think I was 20 and I axed the news, because you're right. It's just all
that's
just
it.
down. They're so depressing.
Exactly. It's so depressing, but there's so much positivity around in the world, which we never talk about or hear about, right? So
Absolutely. Why can't they have
yeah,
a positive newscast?
exactly, right?
See, that's it. We're
So,
going to do it.
yep. So that helps me, that time I spend, trying to recharge and rejuvenate, I use in learning as well. So it kind of plays, it plays into my strengths as well again. And I think the third thing is, and that I would say I have acquired over time, is the belief that as women, we don't need empowerment. We are already empowered. We are super empowered. We don't understand it. But what women really need, and I'm talking about most women, I'm not, of course, there are areas in the world where women are seen as commodity, right? So that is separate. That is a little bit different. But, you do have people like women like Malala also come out of those, cultures and societies, right? So I do believe that women are empowered. We don't need any more empowerment. But what we do need sometimes is a cheerleader, an ambassador who's going to just help us get out of that and, help us. And I say always, help us speak up, level up, and, show up. So I think something like you are doing, Michelle, you are trying to bring women to the forefront as well, listening to their stories and all of that. I think that's a huge part of, being a leader too. And you don't need to be I didn't need to empower you to do this, right? You are actually putting it out there. So
And it's so true about the cheerleader. And 9 times out of 10, we already know the answer, right?
that's it. Yeah,
We just need somebody to maybe help guide us to the answer.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
agree.
that's amazing. So Toni, what would you say your biggest accomplishment is so far?
Hands down, I think raising my son single-handedly. I came to Canada 20 years ago as a single mother. Um, I had to give up a lot. I was already, climbing the corporate ladder in India, but I gave that up because I realized that being a divorced woman with a child in Indian society back then was very difficult. I was a total embarrassment to my family. I was the first one to get divorced. So a lot of people will stay stuck in their situation. I was never like that. And I just took the first opportunity to immigrate with my son. My son was about 3.5 years old at that time. Came to Canada, and although I have an aunt living in Canada, but she had her own life. She had been here for 30 years by then, so she had her own life. And I just did what I could, the best I could. Worked in a factory the first couple of years. It was hard with no family support, no financial support. But my son now, he's 23. He got a job and he's moved out on his own. He's grown up to be a fantastic person, even though I say so. I think he just turned out incredible because he saw the hardship. He's extremely compassionate, and he's like he's become my friend, and sometimes I feel even my guardian, because he's always asking me, Ma, are you eating properly? Are you sleeping properly? And are you taking your meds and all of that stuff? So I think he turned out well, despite not having what a normal child would have. He did not have a normal childhood. So I think that would be my biggest accomplishment so far. And he's working in a great company. He's working in an American investment company. And even though he's here in Montreal, but he's doing fantastic. And he started his own business too on the side.
Good for him. That is an amazing story. And I just get this feeling that there's somebody out there listening to this right now that needed to hear that. Maybe you're
so.
the, solo femalepreneur who started the business on your own, and you've got kids that are responsibilities that you need to, put the food on the table, and just listen. Hey, Toni did it. You can do it too. And I have a similar background in that I grew up in a single parent family too. My mom raised my brother and I, and my dad actually passed away when I was 2. And it's a fabulous thing how you guys do this. I call my mom all the time and I'm like, I have no idea how you did this. That's, and so for you to be able to do that and successfully, I just want to kudos to you, man. Cause I don't know that I could do the same thing, and with just the grace and the tenacity and the determination that you did. So thank you.
Michelle. No, thank you. And I'm really sorry about your dad. I mean, it must have been so hard. Of course, I know you were very young, but just to grow up without having your dad's presence, I'm sure it must have been really hard. And also for your mom, I think hats off to her. I mean, look at what you're doing right now. I think I'm sure she's super proud of you too. So yeah.
Well, I was very fortunate in that my mom, just like you, was super supportive. There was never a basketball game she wasn't at. She anything that soccer games, anything that we were into, my mom was like gung-ho.
Wow.
So
Wow.
and I get the feeling you were exactly the same way. If I were to talk to your son, I'm sure he would tell us an exactly same story. So
I tried. Yeah, I was there for his soccer and his karate and all of that, but then he decided that he just wanted to play video games at one point. I think he was 13 or 14, and he said, that's it, no more sports for me, nothing. The only sports I'll play is on my PlayStation. So.
There you go. Mortal Kombat, here we come.
Yeah.
So what do you suppose is the biggest lesson that you have learned to date?
I think my biggest lesson would be to create my own reality, because I had a lot when I was back home in India, but being again in an entrepreneurial family, it always meant that you didn't always have everything. You just went with the ebb and flow of business, right? But I still had a good life. But when I came here, I first thought that, what did I get myself into? And then
I bet.
Yeah, exactly.
Holy crap. I'm kidding. I'm going to go back.
That's it. The first couple of years are like, oh my God, I think I made the wrong decision, but I knew I hadn't in my heart. So I tried to persist and, persevere and do whatever I could. And I realized after a while that if I decided to stay down, I would stay down. Nobody could pull me up. But if I decided to stay up, nobody could push me down. And that is a lesson I learned also, having lived with clinical depression all my life. And I know this is going to be aired. I don't usually share this, but there was a point where I was suicidal as well. And I was back in India. And I started realizing that, what? The fact that I'm here is because there is a purpose. I am called to do something bigger than myself. And I think that kind of started gaining momentum in my mind. And I just realized that, I just had to create what I didn't have.
That's amazing. And thank you so very much for being vulnerable. That is not easy to do.
Yeah, I usually don't talk about this at all. And especially in this kind of an open public forum.
Yeah. And hopefully I would think that the people that want to listen to this podcast I think somebody needs to hear that, there's and on my actual first podcast episode, I talked about how I kind of went through a similar situation. I was like on top of the world, and then when I had my stroke, I went through a time where I was like, you know what, if this is what life is going to be like, I don't want to live anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, it's not something that you want to talk about, right? Because it's not a, it's a dark period of your life. However, had I not gone through that, I probably wouldn't have found the gumption to pick myself up and be where I'm at today. And I think the exact same thing could be, said of you. And, so for anybody who's listening to this, guys, if you're in that dark spot, trust me, call somebody. We want to know. Yeah. We want to hear. We believe you. And, it's going to get better. It's going to get better.
Absolutely. I agree. And that's the thing, right? Where, like you said, call somebody. Sometimes it's just one person that you need to talk to that can totally change your life, and yeah, I think we are now, it's getting a little bit better, but we were in a society where this was, like, especially for me growing up, this was absolutely not something we spoke about.
Oh yeah, totally taboo.
Totally.
Yes. In the family I grew up in, if you had, some type of mental problem, you had some spirit that was,
yes,
over
exactly.
you. It wasn't a brain thing. It was a spiritual demonic thing or whatever
Exactly. Yeah. But look at you. I mean, I'm really so impressed by, whatever you're doing. You're amazing.
Oh, really. Thank you. So what made you lean towards marketing? How did you pick that as your niche?
Oh boy. So getting raw here again.
I love it.
So, I've been in business for, it's going to be exactly 10 years next month. And when I started, I was teaching people how to cook Indian dishes at home, like restaurant style Indian dishes, but a much healthier version. And I was very new in Montreal. I just moved over from a different city. I was very new here, didn't know anybody else except my colleagues. So even though in the beginning I had trouble finding clients for my cooking lessons, but it went well. So and I was working full time. I was doing this on the weekend. I had a lot of people. I had about 75 people go through my classes in less than a year. I said, okay, this is great. And then I lost interest in teaching Indian cooking. So I moved to photography because I love photography. And one of the reasons I took up photography was to battle my depression because I refused to see a psychiatrist and get on meds. So when I started my photography, I realized that I'm an artist, but the thing is that I'm spending so much money on my photography gear. I'm not making anything, like zero. I would have to shut down my business. And then I said, you know what? Let me try and find out what exactly will actually float my boat. And then I hired a coach, and cost me an arm and a leg at that point. But then I learned that I was missing marketing. And if I had to be a successful business owner, I better know how to market my business, And I applied myself to learning about marketing, like day in and day out. I was just, devour books. And then, there were some online resources like online programs and coaching and workshops and all of that. And I turned it around, and I was doubling my revenue every year for 4 consecutive years till I had to slow down my photography business because of health reasons. But I was doing really well. Really, really well. Despite charging, I think I was told on a number of occasions that I was the most expensive photographer in Montreal. But I could find clients at my beck and call, like literally.
So, wow. Yeah. That's amazing. So for the people who are listening and are thinking, why should this is a podcast about automation and outsourcing. Why in the world should I care about marketing? Who cares about that topic? Tell us exactly why marketing will help people grow their revenue passively. Can you explain that to us?
Absolutely. So marketing is, we are selling ourselves all the time, right? Whether it's to our employers, whether it's to even our kids. Sometimes we want to make them listen to us. We literally have to convince them. So we are selling all the time. But sales is not everything, right? You have to be able to talk about your products without being salesy. And that is where marketing comes in. But to me, it is more serving your clients, through providing valuable content, by providing valuable services, by even conveying to them what value you offer, through words, right? Through your branding, through the experience that you offer them. So those are not necessarily tangible marketing, because when we think of marketing, we mostly think about advertising, but it really isn't. It's all of those little things that play into marketing. And that is kind of, you put that stuff out there, and you expect that if you're doing it right, people will see it, people will listen to you, and ultimately people will come to you, right? Where you kind of finish it off with a little bit of sales, but your marketing should be doing the selling. You shouldn't have to sell.
That's perfect, because it leads me right into, what I wanted to ask next, which is, exactly how do you help people find their ideal client, and how does the marketing speak to finding the ideal client?
So the first exercise I do with anyone is for them to have a vision for their business, because unless you know what you want in your business, you don't know who you want to work with, right? The next thing is, and I actually came up with this ideal client acquisition trifecta, which I kind of, came up with that idea, where I feel that if you have to find your ideal client, one, you need to have a vision. Second, you need to also understand yourself and your personal brand. We all have a brand, but we have to be intentional about it. If we have our personal brand in place, we know who we want to work with, because we want to work with people that have the same values like we do, who believe in the same things as we do. If you don't have that, you end up getting all the wrong people into your business because you were not clear enough. You didn't provide the value. You didn't provide clarity to your prospects. So you got the wrong people in the door. So,
yeah, and that's sorry to break in there, but
yeah,
it's such a huge point in what you just said. I was talking to Julie Stoyan the other day, and she was saying, your marketing should actually repel people.
Absolutely.
It should repel the wrong client for you, so they don't even come in the door. So if you're doing marketing correctly, it's not only going to attract your ideal client, but it's also going to repel the person who you shouldn't be helping anyway, because it's not a good fit.
Totally. Because
That's,
you don't want to have the wrong people and just drain yourself and your business serving the wrong people.
Absolutely. So tell me more about, the Women Who Win with Toni Chowdhury. Tell me about that program.
So I actually have, I had a couple of programs under that. One was the mindset, and that was basically for anybody who wanted to just succeed at any level. And I normally work with women on 10 different levels. That includes the emotional health, the intellectual health, your financial, relationships, anything. But the other program that I have is the marketing program, which is Winning at Marketing. And that program is more condensed for startups. And the startup, what do we do normally when we start a business? We decide to start a business. We get a logo designed, or we design it on our own. We get a website, and we find something to sell, and we are selling. But that's the wrong way to start a business. So within that 8-week program, I give them the basics that they can start testing. And I'm a huge believer in testing your ideas, because unless you throw it out in the market, you don't know whether it's the right thing for whoever you're doing it for, right? So that provides the basics. But recently, actually, I'm in the process of applying the finishing touches to my third program, which is going to be, so the other two are like totally one-on-one coaching, But this one is going to be an online course for women who are a little bit more advanced in their businesses, who probably maybe, been in the business for about 1.5 to 2 years, but they're not seeing the revenue. They're not seeing the right clients in their business. So that's where, again, the ideal client acquisition trifecta comes in. And for me, I'll be teaching them the 3 C's that I believe will help them find the right clients. The 3 C's being, one is cognition, one is customer experience, and the third one is communication. And the cognition is the branding part, what people see, and they recognize you, they perceive you as the person or the business that will provide them the solution they're looking for. And then obviously the customer experience, you need to provide an excellent customer experience for anybody to, first of all, even opt in to your lead magnet, and then obviously to go through the entire program or whatever it is that you're offering, and then become loyal clients and raving fans. So, and the communication, yes, the communication is the most important thing, because the 2 things that people see when they encounter your brand for the first time is your visual element, which is, the colors, the fonts, and the graphics and all of that. And the second thing is your message, right? If you don't have a good message, if it is not targeted, and it won't be targeted if you don't know who you're selling to, who you're marketing to, so your communication falls flat and people just move on to your competitor maybe. So those are my programs, and those are the Women Who Win programs. And I hope to launch this 3rd program in the next month or so. Yeah.
And so that one basically deals specifically with your brand board and copy. Is that correct?
Exactly, but it also has, so the way I'm designing it is something that I haven't seen being done, and it's going to be an incremental kind of a program, in the sense that you could opt for maybe one of the modules, or all of them, so maybe one or all 3, and you do it at your own pace, and you do it incrementally, so that people can work through each of those modules and get better at what they think they're lacking. So it will be on customer experience, on communication, and on cognition. So these are the 3 courses which will make the big course.
Awesome. That's right. You did say that.
Yeah.
So if somebody wanted to find that course, maybe they need one part of it, where can they go to find information out about it?
Just yet, there's nothing just yet, but I do have, if people are interested, if they want to kind of just get, on the wait list or something, they could download my lead magnet. They can, and it's a fantastic thing that I've come up with. I was scratching my own itch again. It's called the Ideal Client Avatar Canvas. And what it is it's a digital canvas. It's a 1-pager that if you've already defined your ideal client, then fantastic. You put all, your important points that you've kind of gleaned from your ideal client avatar. You put it on that sheet and keep it front and center anytime you're creating any content for your, for your marketing, your website, your social media, anything. But the other thing is that if you already have, if you don't have an ICA yet, or ideal client avatar, then you can use that canvas as a foundation to actually do the exercise. So it comes with a guide and some questions and all of that. So they could opt into that and just, wait till I drop the program, in
awesome.
the
So where's the website where they can find the lead magnet?
I haven't put it yet, but I don't know if you want to put the link in the show notes, then I can probably just put it in the show notes, or
yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll be happy to do that.
Right now it's a standalone thing.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. I did see you have another super awesome lead magnet out there, which was your killer marketing strategy.
Yes.
Too.
Yes.
So I was eyeballing that.
Yeah. That's on my website. So anybody can go and, easily opt in over there.
Okay. Awesome. And if you guys don't know, let me look it up here quick. The website is womenwhowin-tc.com. So all one word, womenwhowin-tc.com. If you're looking for that killer marketing strategy, And actually, yeah, tell us a little bit about that free workbook that you offer there.
Yeah. So again, when we start our businesses, we don't even realize that we actually need a marketing strategy. It's not like, hope marketing, as we call it, like you throw some spaghetti at the wall and hope it'll stick. So most of us start off like that, which is, I've been there, I've done that. And that's the reason I was, scratching my own itch. And so this workbook is going to walk you through, like, of course, there's a little bit where you can, start thinking about your ideal client avatar, who it is, who exactly is your dream client, who do you want to work with? And then it'll work you through, what are your, I don't know if you're familiar with the SWOT analysis, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Oh, yes.
Right. So the SWOT analysis.
I just never heard of it as that SWOT before. Okay.
Yeah. So it's, that it's going to work you through that so that exactly, what are your strengths and what opportunities can come out of that, and the weaknesses and the threats thereof. Then obviously it works you through, like, how are you going to advertise your business or market your business? Is your idea, your business idea, is it kind of like a Me Too marketing kind of thing? How can you stand out? Like, it's just, something to get people to think, that marketing is not just putting some stuff out there and hope that people will see it and buy from you. It has to be done very strategically.
And that's a huge point that so many people miss. Like, when they're writing their copy, you should be writing to a specific person, which is your avatar. So if you haven't taken the time to create your avatar, you're throwing spaghetti against a wall and you're hoping that it sticks. Yeah. So Toni's like dropping some huge knowledge bomb for those of you who either haven't gotten your marketing squared away or you're just starting out on your entrepreneurial journey. You've download that killer marketing strategy that she has for you. That free workbook will get you on the right track, because remember, it's all about attracting the right person and repelling the wrong person. And the only way that you can do that is if you're talking in every piece of marketing, every piece of copy, every picture, every graphic, every color, every font should go strategically to a specific person that you're talking to. And if you guys haven't figured that out yet, scrap everything you're doing and do that first.
Yes, absolutely. That's gold. What you just said, you summarized it.
Hey, you said it. You said it, not me. I'm just pulling out your golden nugget. So what do you think is the biggest problem that you run into, helping clients get booked?
I would say mindset. Because especially as women, we always feel we are not good enough. We're not smart enough. We don't have what it takes to, be even on camera, right? So and unless you are visible, whether you're on camera or not, I'm not talking about that kind of visible, but just being visible even on social media, putting out content there and putting out the right kind of content. It just, people don't get it most of the time. And they think that, it's too much work or I can't do it, But what people miss is that business, marketing, all of that is a highly learnable skill. So till the point that they can shift that paradigm and believe that it is learnable, it really gets very difficult. And people, but I don't know where to start. That's another thing. So if you don't know where to start, you need to learn to clarify, which point you need to start at. So, yeah.
Yeah. And just to bring up what you were talking about, I've got this awesome book. So what Toni's talking about is the imposter syndrome. There's so many of us that as women, we've been told our whole lives, oh, well, you're just good enough. Or you're not as good as the guys, or you think you can do it, but just, and so we internalize this, and it becomes this like syndrome that we take on where internally we tell ourselves, well, you're just not good enough. And if you try to get out there on Facebook or you try to go on a video, you're just an imposter because you're not really
That's
good
it.
enough. And what's not hilarious, kind of sad, but hilarious about this is, I mean, you have like doctors with PhDs who are like massively knowledgeable and can run circles around people. And they're like, oh, I don't know anything,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And hold on, I got to get this book because it's like,
Sure.
Like, hold on. So this book is called The Secret Thoughts of Successful Women.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's written by Valerie Young, who has her doctorate, and she actually wrote her thesis on the imposter syndrome when she realized she wasn't writing her thesis because she thought she wasn't good enough.
Wow.
True story.
I have
So
to read that.
yeah, awesome book. It's Why Capable People Suffer from the Imposter Syndrome and How to Thrive in Spite of It. So if you guys haven't read this book, I highly recommend it. Very good book. Thank you
for the recommendation.
Oh, that's awesome, Toni, that you brought that up, because so many times we just don't even talk about it, you know?
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
And actually just last evening, I did a live with another lady in my Facebook group, and that's what we talked about: imposter syndrome and the fears that keep us stuck.
Yep. It's such a huge thing, especially for the female-preneur. And you know, I honestly didn't even know I had it until my mentor, who called me out on it. His name is Ian, amazing guy. He's like, Michelle, he's like, you don't even know how much you know. He's like, you have imposter syndrome so bad I can't even stand it. Go read this book. And it's so true. And the only reason he knew it was because he had it too, and somebody had to call him out. So it's like it's like this super prevalent thing that you don't even realize you have until somebody says it, and then you're like, oh yeah, I do have superpowers, and it's okay to say that I have them because I have this unique thing that I give back to the world. And that's what's so awesome. Anyway, I digress. I went down a little rabbit hole. Sorry.
No, but it's good. I got a new book recommendation.
Absolutely. In fact, after this, send me your address. I'm going to send you it. So.
Oh.
Yeah. Don't say it now, though, because everybody will have your address in Montreal. Everybody will be knocking at Toni's door. Hey, Toni, I need some Indian food and a brand board.
Yep. And some coaching.
Exactly. Yeah. So, all right. What's the funniest story you can think of growing up in a conservative Indian family? Just tell me something hilarious that happened.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, you know, like I told you that I wasn't allowed to talk to boys. I wasn't allowed to play with boys, whatever. But I didn't get along with the girls because the girls would sit and talk about movie stars in fashion and all of that. And I was a very athletic kind of person. I was sporty. I loved playing sports. So I would sneak out of the house in the middle of the afternoon, and believe it or not, I would scale the wall behind my house. My mom would be taking a nap. I would scale the wall, climb a tree, get on the wall, jump over, and I'd run away kind of for a couple of hours and play with the boys on the streets. And so many times I was busted, and there were people in the neighborhood that would come and complain to my dad, oh, we saw your daughter playing with the boys. You know,
Toni's out again. That's awesome. Oh my gosh. How old were you when you were doing that?
Oh, I was quite old. I was probably 13, 14, 15. Yeah, definitely in my teens. Yes.
Yep. Yeah. I had the same, you and I were the same. I was such a tomboy, and my mom's like, oh my gosh, can you not just like wear a dress for once? And I was like, what do I want to wear a dress for? Like, I just want to go outside and play basketball with the boys. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, it was cricket with the boys, because India is all about cricket, right? So yeah.
So, cricket is like a mash of like baseball and field hockey, right? Is that kind of?
Yeah, kind of. Except you don't run so much as in field hockey. You just run between two, bases, kind of. The wickets, we call it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Sweet. So it's field hockey for lazy people. I love it.
I love that. I love that description.
I gotta pick up this sport now that I'm like older and weigh a whole lot more than I should. I need cricket.
Don't even go there.
All right, Toni. So give us one book that you would recommend that somebody on their female entrepreneurial journey really has to read? Which one changed your life, man?
Oh man, like there are so many, but I think the one book anybody should read, especially whether you're a woman or a man, but if you are marketing to a woman, if your target audience is women, then it would be Winning Her Business by Bridget Brennan.
Okay.
Winning Her Business by Bridget Brennan. It's just brilliant. It's brilliant. It's, it tells you, the things that you need to be looking for, the things you have to think, the psychographics of a woman that you should be aware of when you talk to them, how you serve them, how you treat them, what you sell them, everything. It's an amazing book. And she had another one before that. It was called Why She Buys. So both those books, they're both of them are brilliant.
That is awesome. I have never heard of her, and so thank
you. I hadn't heard of her either.
We swap books.
Yes.
We swap book recommendations. I love it.
I am a huge reader, so yeah.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I think if you're going to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to read.
You have to read. Exactly.
Absolutely. Toni, thank you so much for everything that you gave us. And I mean, you just packed a ton of information in the last half hour, and you were super honest, super sweet, super vulnerable. I just really, really appreciate, and I hope our listeners do too. I hope they hit you up with a ton of email just saying, thank you so much for everything that you did for us, Toni. So thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. And thank you for giving me a voice. And I really hope that my story resonates with at least one woman, or even a man. It doesn't matter, right? As long as it helps somebody. So I mean, huge thanks to you, honestly. And I really appreciate what you're doing. And just giving people a voice is so important,
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So
I really appreciate that.
Just one more time so everybody knows, you can catch up with Toni at her website, which is womenwhowin-tc.com. And you can find her email there so she can, hit her up for her other freebie. We're going to put it in the show notes, but if you're listening to this before we have it on the website, just email her. She'll get you that lead magnet. And we will see you guys next time. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you for tuning in to the Automate to Dominate podcast at www.awesomeoutsourcing.com/podcast. My name is Michelle Thompson. Hey guys, if you absolutely love this show, I would greatly appreciate it if you would head on over to iTunes, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star written review. That would be amazing. And as always, if you guys know somebody who should be listening to this podcast, please don't keep it all to yourself. Share it with your friends.